Hello boys, let's look at task 6.11. It says the transactions given below were extracted from the records of Merriam's supermarket. Record the relevant entries in the general journal. Then they say the transactions are for May 2008 and the first transaction took place on the 2nd. The owner, Merriam, took food at cost from the supermarket, 269 Rand for her personal use. If you record this in the general journal, we will go and debit drawings because the owner took something for herself, which is an owner's equity account in the balance sheet section, and we will credit trading stock because we have less stock left to sell. Neither one of them affect debtors or creditors control. You don't have to make these zeros. I just do it so that my general journal looks complete. And then my journal narration is owner took goods for personal use. Then the next transaction is on the 6th. It says charge F Ford 9 Rand interest on his overdue account of 318 Rand. In this case, they gave you the interest value. You didn't have to calculate anything. You just need to record it in the general journal. If a debtor is charged interest, then we debit debtors control because the debtor owes us even more. Remember to say which debtor. It's F Ford. It's an asset that goes to the balance sheet section, and it must go here to the debit column, but also to the debit column of debtors control. And then the contra account is an interest account called interest on overdue debtors, which is nominal section, and we say interest charged on overdue account. Once again, usually we write the interest rate and the time period in the journal narration. In this case, it wasn't given to us, so this would be acceptable. Then the next transaction says W. Wilson, a debtor, was owing 360 Rand, was declared insolvent. His estate only paid 40 cents in the Rand right off the balance of his account. Okay, so what happens here is W. Wilson's estate will actually pay the business 40 cents for every 1 Rand that he owed. That will be recorded in the CRJ. But in this case, you are not required to do the CRJ, so you can just ignore that. What we need to focus off is the bad debts value, the amount that must be actually written off. Okay, so the bad debts value can be calculated as 60 cents because we received 40 cents. We must write off 60 cents, which would be 60 over 100. For every Rand that he owed us a total of 360 Rand. In other words, 216 Rand must be written off as bad debts in the general journal. Okay, bad debts is an expense account that we debit. That goes to the nominal section. It doesn't affect debtors or creditors control. And then the debtors control account of W. Wilson must be credited. We take that value out there because we will never see the 216 Rand. And you write 60 cents in the Rand of the debtors account is written off. You don't have to write all of that. You can just say account written off. Okay, but I just like to write more rather than less to ensure that I will get my marks at the end of the day. Okay, then let's look at the next transaction. It says, received a debit note from the bank together with the check drawn by S. Sloan for 247 Rand. The check was marked RD insufficient funds and was originally received from S. Sloan in settlement of a debt of 260 Rand. Okay, so what happens here is previously S. Sloan paid us with a check. She paid 247 Rand to settle a debt of 260 Rand. Okay, so that is implied discount. It says that she paid us 247 Rand to settle a debt of 260, which means that 13 Rand was given as discount. However, now she doesn't have the money to actually pay us. There's insufficient funds. Her check was dishonored. We will cancel the 247 Rand in the CPJ. The amount that we need to cancel in the DJ is the value of the discount that we have allowed to her. We have to go and reverse that discount. She doesn't deserve it because her check was dishonored. If we reverse discount allowed, then we will go and debit the debtors control account again because she owes us more. We put it back. Okay, on the debit side, remember to write a Sloan and it's only the discount allowed value, the 13 Rand, and we credit discount allowed an expense. Why do we credit this expense? Because we are reversing it. Okay, so we reverse it on the credit side. It's in the nominal section, 13 Rand, and you just write cancel discount on an RD check. A very common mistake that boys make is they want to go and cancel the entire check in the general journal, which is not necessary. Remember, the amount that we actually received from previously must be cancelled in the CPJ. Then let's go and look at the next transaction on the 13th. It says K King's balance of 500 Rand in the debtors ledger was overdue for 4 months. Charge him interest at 18% per annum. Okay, so now we have to go and calculate that interest by saying 500 Rand multiplied by the interest rate of 18% multiplied by the time period of 4 months gives us an interest value of 30 Rand. When we charge interest on this overdue debtor, we will debit his account. Okay, so we will debit debtors control of K King. He owes us more money, and we will credit interest on overdue debtors, which is the nominal account, and we will say interest charge on overdue account. And now, because you know the rate and the time period, you have to include that in the journal narration. Then the next journal voucher was for the transaction on the 19th, where it says merchandise or goods with a cost price of 60 Rand and a selling price of 80 Rand was taken from stock by the owner for her personal use. What do we use? The cost price or the selling price when the owner takes money for herself? The cost price. Okay, so you will say drawings must be debited. Trading stock is credited because the owner took the money. We use the 60 Rand, and both of them are balance sheet section accounts, and the owner took goods for personal use. The next transaction on the 24th, Mariam's attorney informed her that all efforts to trace a debtor had failed. He owed 150 Rand and the account must be written off. This is just a straightforward bad debts transaction. You don't even have to calculate any cents in the Rand. So in your debtors, in your general journal, you go and debit bad debts. You go and credit debtors control of M. Moses, because you will never see that money, and you say account written off. Straightforward. Then the next transaction took place on the 28th. It says the overdue account of P. Thomas, 450 Rand, was charged 25 Rand interest. But the entry, which entry? The interest entry, was by mistake posted to the account of T. Thomas in the debtors ledger. So what happened is, this is a correction of error. We incorrectly debited T. Thomas for the interest of P. Thomas. So to fix this error, we must go and debit P. Thomas, because he's actually the one that owes us interest, and you have to write debtors control P. Thomas. And we must go and credit T. Thomas, because we debited his account incorrectly. The poor guy didn't even do anything wrong. So we have to fix it. And you have to say correction of error. Don't overcomplicate this journal narration. Don't say interest charged to the wrong debtor or whatever. Just write correction of error. And then our last transaction says a check for 1,480 Rand issued for 2 tires for the delivery van was posted from the CPJ to the vehicle account. Okay, so we can't add any values to the vehicle's account after we've bought the vehicle because of the historical cost principle. Okay, so we must take that out of the vehicle's account. We incorrectly debited vehicles. We had to debit what we call motor expenses. It's not repairs. New tires are not seen as repairs. It's motor expenses must be debited. Vehicles must be credited. So go and debit motor expenses, go and credit vehicles, and say correction of error. And right at the end, remember to total your debtors and creditors control columns. I hope this makes sense, and I hope that you are having a wonderful lockdown day. Goodbye, boys.